I truly, it's corny as hell to say, but I'm a huge music fan. And music is truly the universal language. It truly is a universal language. And the way that it was brought up, we are 7 minutes in, and the first reference of the Dreidel Country has been, Ben Shapiro's people have been referenced for the first time. It's a long time for me. But we were talking about it in reference to, and I'll get to that story too, where they're picking that weird witch-looking that bald black woman to be the Jesus and Jesus Christ superstar. And it's that play, or that musical is always designed to be, from the jump, it's corny. From the jump, it's designed to be like different. So it's not as weird as people might say, but it is still disrespectful. But my point was, and then we looked through, when I first saw the news of that, I looked through it, and I saw the news, and I was like, I know that there's a tiny hat behind it. I said, I didn't even know. I said, I'm putting my reputation, money on, I put all my money on the line. There's a tiny hat behind funding it. And we saw a tiny hats from the casting to the executive level. And maybe I'll cover that deeper. But my point of that was, part of the reason why I am so big against, or not against, but speaking out on the tiny hats, is I think they largely have been subversives. I've talked about this with the Civil Rights Act. They were the energy behind it to get their businesses in black areas. And what they've done is they've pit the white against the black. And then they've been subversive and kind of hide within, oh, I'm a white. No, you're not. You have an ethno-state that's a Jewish ethno-state. That's not a white ethno-state. So let's try again. And they pit these people together, and I think that's I haven't seen this clip from Nick yet, but I think that's where he's going with this.
Love this. And you could say that, have they really never heard those songs before? Are they really enjoying it that much? Or is this just, so we could be cynical. But I was watching the video. I got a big kick out of it. I really enjoyed it. And I was thinking to myself, why is it that white people do like that?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, why is it that when we see a black person with like a do-rag on, because that was another one, it was two black guys and they have a do-rag on and they're really getting into it. And you ask yourself, why is it that we as white people like to watch black people enjoy our culture? And I was thinking, contrary to a lot of the racialists or race idolaters on the right, and this is going to be, maybe a lot of people aren't going to agree with this to watch the show, but I'm going to say it because this is what I feel, and it's true. You know me, I'm a Catholic, and I am a white nationalist. I think America should be a white country, but I don't hate the other races. I don't think they're less than human, and I wouldn't even strictly say that I'm a white supremacist. I'm proud of being white. I think the white people,
I can tell you, Nick and Call, I'm not going to speak for Nick, but he's not, I can tell you from, I watch the show damn near every day. He's not that, that's for sure. He is a white nationalist. He is a Christian futurist. Yeah, that for sure. A Christian authoritarian. Yeah, that's for sure. That other stuff, no, that's not the accurate term.
people are certainly exceptional at a lot of things.
And if somebody is that, I don't even care. I just want the labels to be accurate.
Maybe most things, but I think that there's an inherent equality that we all have. Anyway, and this is distinct from other people on the right, and I see this more and more, people that are genuine race idolaters. They worship their race. And this even compromises their spirituality. They think that they won't even adhere to Christianity because they think Christianity is racially egalitarian. Anyway, we talked a little bit about this last night. And when I see things like that video, now maybe it's sentimentality, maybe it's, playing on your emotions because it's nostalgic. And so maybe there's something subjective there. But I think about the reason that white people like to see black people enjoy the music. And I think there is something fundamental. There is something within all of us that we do actually long for a universal community of human beings. And obviously, I think that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have borders. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have distinct racial communities within the world. But I think that when you see videos like that, there is something about that that makes you feel good. There is something about that where you actually...
You got to hold up, Nick. You got to hold up. You're not living up to the monster. Like, they think you're a monster, Nick. You can't talk like this, man. You're not living up to that mantra. If somebody who just listens to everything that's said about this guy and they just jump into this video and hear this, it might be a cold bucket of water to the face that somebody lied to you.
You know, you like that they appreciate our culture, and vice versa. Black people like when white people appreciate their culture. I think it does betray the fact that on a deep level, we do actually long for a universal community. We do actually have this universal human experience, and we actually do like to share. There is this innate human desire to share with other people, our culture, things about ourselves, just like we have a desire to share within a racial community, but also between racial communities. And I was thinking that at the same time that I saw that, I was also thinking about the Trevor Noah video. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was actually really surprising. Trevor Noah is the South African black host of The Daily Show. He took over for Jon Stewart some years ago. I don't really particularly like him. I think he's anti-white. I don't think he's very funny. I don't think he's as smart as he thinks he is. I think he's got a real attitude. But he was on this talk show with these two black women, and they were more insufferable than him. But he said on the show that as Jim Crow and segregation and racism was on its way out, he said America automatically embraced racial integration.
I'm going to play that clip next. I got to find the podcast because I want to see some of the context there, but I'll play that after we're done here.
And he said that that was really a false dichotomy that was presented, that you either had segregation and cruelty and abuse and animosity towards the black people, but then the only other course besides that was racial integration, which is that blacks and whites would be forced to live together, forced to integrate, and that's just how it has to be. He said, and is there something to be said for the fact that black people can relate to other black people more than they relate to white people? Or, even more specifically, that Africans from Africa can relate to other Africans and communicate with each other in their own way and understand each other at a deeper level. The word he's looking for is familiarity. They're familiar. Their habits.
And I know I'm not going to do clips on the After Show Carnage with Nick in them, like segments, but I'm going to leave the lives up there. And I'm going to do a push where I think this is the year where YouTube has to bring Nick back. I don't see why they wouldn't. The culture in the country has shifted, and Nick has a presence, and this is not monster material. Yeah, you're going to get these jokes. That's what life is about. You're going to get these jokes. But when it comes to serious content, I think YouTube wants this on there. You've got other competitors like Kick. I don't think Nick messes with Kick anymore because they were messing around with the censorship. But you have the competitors. We just heard a story where Twitch is allegedly Kick, the guy who co-founded Kick, but used to be a Twitch streamer. And he said there's a lot of these bots out here. So when you see big name X on Twitch, many of them are using a program to make it look like 10,000 people are watching when it's not. And when you get 10,000 people watching, well, then the computer program says, well, maybe we can get 10,000 more. And then real people come in. So they're using bots to artificially, the game is from what I'm looking at, the game is dirty. Just looking at it more closely than ever. That's what the That's what the Ashley St. Clair thing represents. The dirty game of alt media. It's dirty, incestuous. And I think if you want real authentic movement and eyes, this might be the time. I really do. You might think I'm crazy. I think YouTube is going to let. I think didn't they let Sneeko on for a hot second and then ban him again or something? I'm losing track of all this censorship, but I think this is I don't know if they're going to do it with Tate or not, but I think it could be. I don't even really, not to hate on Tate. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not as big of a fan of Tate as others, but I think Sneeko and Nick, it could be the time when they get back on this year. I really do.
The way they talk, sense of humor, all sorts of things, even little things that we don't often think of when we think about racial or cultural differences. He said, and is there something to be said for the fact that maybe we should go our separate ways? Maybe we feel more comfortable and more familiar with people that are like us. And maybe there's something to be said for a separation without that animosity. And I feel like that, like synthesizing those two truths, that is how to develop a kind of post-woke.
I agree completely. And the biggest part of that is, that's why I want to hear the context, is the biggest part that I was surprised about from Trevor Noah, which I actually think he is very bright. It's just the fascism of the government working with the media, that he's a ladder climber. If you want to climb the ladder, you know what you have to be. So he does the afro and all that, fake blackness. He's almost as light skinned as Nick is. So what is this black for him? I don't know. But I think the thing that got me is what Nick was talking about. There wasn't any animosity. And that I'm going to play the clip after this. That felt weird. I was like, it wasn't the fact that he said maybe blacks should, my interpretation was not forced to be separate, but allowed to be separate just culturally, and it's not a big deal anymore. And he had no animosity with it. That's complete. Everything about 2020, Black Lives Matter, Kendrick Lamar just performed at the halftime show. I think the feedback on that is a lot more negative than we think with all the stuff I'm reading about it. And Kendrick Lamar is that overt, try too hard to be black so hard you're just annoying. And what Trevor Noah came with on this clip that Nick's talking about, it seemed like some real talk. It seemed like real talk. It didn't seem like the normal power play that they do.
Like a post political correctness, post integration racial politics, because I think everybody is recognizing integration is failing. We are different. We are distinct. There is a tension between the races. At the same time, it doesn't mean that we have to kill each other. We are different.
I do have a small disagreement. I don't think integration is failing. I think the forced integration is failing, and that's the government. The government came in. There were other civil acts and stuff, but I always go back to 64, and that's the major one. That is forced integration. So if I have a company or whatever, I can't decide based on whatever I want to decide on to hire somebody or not, or I could get sued. And people just keep that secret, obviously, but that's forced. If the integration is natural, then I'm all for it.
Ever going to bridge that gap between the races?
It's not a disagreement with Nick. I don't think it's just, I think it's taking it to a step further. I have more libertarian in me than Nick, and he's a former libertarian.
Always be a gulf. There'll always be an uncomfortable tension. There'll always be discomfort. There'll always be a lack of familiarity. There'll always be a sense of alienation between the races. And so that is what Trevor Noah is saying. At the same time, it doesn't mean we have to eradicate each other. At the same time, it doesn't mean we have to subjugate each other. And I think that is towards a racial politics where there are distinct racial communities in the world and in the country, and that the relationship between the communities is just simply managed. And there can be times when there is more harmony between the races and less harmony. And, you know, certainly there'll be conflict and there'll be times of relative peace. But I think that's where things need to go. This idea that, you know, there is sameness. We're human, and our humanness and our innate urge for universal community, it makes us want to share with each other. And in some cases come together. At the same time, that same human nature also turns inwardly. And at the same time that we want a universal community, we feel more comfortable within our own racial community most of the time. And so maybe we can come together in certain common spaces, certain public spaces.
And you can see how I take it to the hats way more than Nick does. Way more. Nick doesn't hardly even talk about it. Which is I'm fine with. I don't want him to change what he's doing. I'm newer to this, and the reason why I talk about the hat so often is because I think this is the reason why. I think they are in the way, and I'm using this generally, obviously not all blacks or whites or whatever, but generally speaking, especially the Zionist ones, they are in the way of us taking us to where Nick is talking right now. They are the ones that portray Nick. They are the biggest ones that this right here. Oh, you never see this spread anywhere. But if Nick makes a joke about whatever, I don't even know what the jokes are. Somebody crawling out of a tunnel or something. Oh, it's they. I'm a grown ass man. And we're going to have grown-ass discussions. And if I see these things and you try to call me names or do this other stuff, then we have problems. You're getting in the way of this. And I don't care who you are. If you're getting in the way of what Nick's talking about here, you and I have problems.
Like in a government building or in a church or a public square, but maybe we retreat to our separate corners in our neighborhoods and playgrounds and schools and things like that. And sort of like, how do you synthesize those two positions? Because, you know, I would say that, and it's not to say that, oh, it's just I'm in the middle, but
no,
I'm not someone who is so racist that says I could never be a Christian because black people are inferior. Because there are people that believe that. I know people that think that, and I disagree with them strongly on that. You know, on their.
I love how he said, I'm not so racist. I'm just a little bit.
People say, you know, we just hate people that aren't like us and this and that. So I'm not necessarily that far, but I'm also not on the other side where I say race means nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And America should become all brown people. And I want brown people in my neighborhood because it's like, you know, I want to live in a white neighborhood. When I get married and have
here's the poorly kept secret. So do black people.
Family, or if I decide to do that, I want to raise my kids in a white neighborhood.
Oh, Nick, don't do that. Nick, I listen to every word you say, bro. Don't do that. What did you say? He said, if. Don't. It might not be a big deal, but that is what he said, talking about family. Let me bring this back real quick. This is off topic, but.
When I get married and have a family, or if I decide to do that.
No, bro. I can't. How am I going to tell another bro he has to get married and stuff like that? But I'm hoping that that there's really no if there. That's my hope.
I want to raise my kids in a white neighborhood, and I want the people to be white. I want them to be like me. And even more particularly, I don't even want to live in the South. I want to live in the Midwest.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Or among American ethnics, because people that are Italian and Irish that live in Boston or Chicago or New York are different than people that are German and English that live in Naperville, who live in.
But we're already kind of, it's not, I don't even think it's that, Nick. We're already divided like that. I mean, there's already neighborhoods. You know where the Mexicans live. You know where the blacks live. You know where the whites live, largely in every city in this country. So it's already kind of like that. I think we just got to get rid of the civil rights. The civil rights have to go. That's where Donald Trump's coming from, where he says, well, I'll use the weight of the DOJ against anybody who criticizes Ben Shapiro's people, Barry Weiss's people. If anybody who criticizes them, we want to, especially college, whatever, we want to hem you up in some type of way. And then they go over to Germany talking about free speech. But the Civil Rights Act is what allowed all that. And for those who are still talking about the Transformers and all that, which I still talk about, but rarely, that's how they're doing it too with the civil rights. Then they're even including the fats now. New York literally is including the fats. If you eat too much McDonald's, you too could be a protected class. If you're just a normal white, you don't eat too much McDonald's, you don't run around with the rainbow flag, we ain't got much for you. That's pretty much what the civil rights boils down to.
Like Springfield, Illinois. They're different. So anyway, so those are just some thoughts I've had about race, but I think that's sort of the future. It reminds me of what I think it was either Sam Francis or Pat Buchanan, but they said about race, they said it's not everything, but it isn't nothing. And that's sort of where I'm at. Because I saw that video, I saw some people kind of being really negative in the replies. They said, oh, you're posting an N-word, this is crap. And it's like, can't we?
I think he's talking about the video with the black guy singing The Fray. And I saw where Nick was going with. He didn't post any comment with it that I saw. So when he does that, what he's doing is, I'm presenting something to you, and your reaction gives him information. That's what it is. I didn't frame it in any way. If you think I'm making fun of it or I shouldn't do it, whatever, it's all coming from you because I didn't post anything with it. I've done that a couple times too. I'll actually post it with a little period to show I did that on purpose.
Isn't there some sense of camaraderie between the races? Isn't it amusing? I don't actually hate the other groups. I don't want to go and get married to them and live with them all the time and have to deal with all their problems and be an alien in my own land at the same time. I don't,
And I don't hate them yet. I just don't want to go to the grocery store and see them. I don't want to drive my car and turn over and see them. I'm just joking. I don't want to go to the DMV and see them. I don't want to go to the restaurant and see them.
So that's just what I was thinking about that video, because I saw it and I was like, I like that they like the song. That's my favorite song. I like that they like it. And there's something common, which is why we both enjoy it and we like sharing it. But then we want to go home,
That's a shout out. That's a big shout out to Kaiser Rev, one of the best, clippers out.